In a breathtaking scenario, humans are chosen to travel to the year 2051, defying time and space, with the crucial purpose of preventing the extinction of our species at the hands of a threatening alien race. In December 2022, Dan Forrester, a high school biology teacher, celebrates Christmas with his wife Emmy and their daughter Murray. They watch a lively World Cup football match on television. Dan is a former military Green Beret, retired for 15 years. Currently, he's seeking an opportunity at a significant research center, but his past military career becomes an obstacle to his acceptance. After receiving a heartbreaking rejection, Dan shares his disappointment with Murray, who tries to console him, assuring him that everything will be alright. While watching the game together, something extraordinary happens. The television starts flickering, and a player about to score is enveloped in a bright blue light. The entire stadium is shaken by the light, and numerous people emerge, seemingly coming from a portal from the future. A leader from the group explains that they are people from 30 years ahead in time, seeking help from their elders, as humanity is facing a terrible war against an extraterrestrial race called the White Claws. 1 year after the incident, many governments start developing jump facilities where soldiers are sent 30 years into the future to reinforce their military forces, following the announcement about the future war. However, most of the early soldiers sent to the future do not return alive, making the situation even more challenging. In response, global leaders begin selecting civilians to fight against the White Claws, sending them into battle for 7 days. Unfortunately, the majority of them never return, and those who do carry deep scars from the experience. Amidst all this, Dan receives an emergency call while in class and is summoned to war. A device is placed on his arm as a form of identification and obligation. Dan feels trapped since declining the call would mean his wife Emmy will be summoned in his place. Uncertain about what to do, Emmy suggests the idea of running away, but first, Dan needs to get rid of the summoning device on his arm. So, he decides to seek help from his father, James Forrester, a mechanical engineer. However, their relationship is complicated because James abandoned Dan and his mother when he was younger, leaving them without an explanation. Dan goes to his father and asks for help in removing the summoning device. However, a heated argument ensues between them, and the hostile atmosphere causes Dan to leave, still uncertain about what to do next. Emmy had already accepted her husband's fate. However, Murray was devastated to learn that her father had been called up, even though he was scheduled to be away for just 1 week. No one could guarantee his return. A few days later, with tears in their eyes, the family said their goodbyes before he left to join other soldiers recruited for the 7-day training. During this period, Dan met Charlie, a fellow soldier assigned to the same group. While talking about their families, the alarm sounded, and all soldiers were informed of the emergency. An important research center studying the White Claws had been attacked. The war could be lost if the facility was destroyed, so the soldiers were sent before completing their entire training. After the time jump, the system failed, and the soldiers fell from a great height. Only Dan, Charlie, Dorian, Nora, Quinn, and a few others survived the fall as they landed in a rooftop pool in Miami Beach. Now, the mission needed to be modified for an urgent rescue. The objective was to locate the researchers from the lab in a nearby building and transport them to a safe location. Dan was appointed as the leader of one of the 2 teams by the commanding colonel. He led his team through the empty streets, completely devastated by the White Claws. When they reached the research site, they discovered that the entire team had died. Dan informed the colonel about the situation and received the order to retrieve toxin samples from the lab and leave the area, as it was infested with aliens, and there were no survivors left. With time against them, the teams rushed to collect the essential samples before the area was destroyed by airstrikes. Every minute was precious, and everyone was focused on completing the mission. However, they weren't alone in that building. With the samples in hand, they had only 6 minutes to leave the area before it would be bombed. The group descends the stairs, but halfway through, they come face to face with one of the White Claws following them, ready to attack. Unfortunately, one of the soldiers is killed. The situation worsens when a large group of these creatures appears, forcing the teams to fight for survival. Confronting an imminent threat, they shoot and run down the stairs, losing some soldiers in the process, while others manage to escape. Dan and they finally reach the bottom of the stairs. Dan decides to distract the creature to allow the rest of the team to escape. Despite his courage and determination, Dan runs out of ammunition and finds himself unable to eliminate the monster. Luckily, Dorian appears at the right moment and kills the White Claw. The mission control alerts that the bombing will begin in 3 minutes, sending reinforcements to help the team escape. Everyone strives to reach the vehicles and ensure their own safety. However, the streets are filled with white claws, and the creatures attack the convoy. Nora and Cowan fight the creatures to secure a chance of escape, but amidst the chaos, the city is engulfed in explosions and flames. Dan wakes up and finds himself in a military camp in the Dominican Republic, and only he, Dorian, and Charlie have managed to escape. During a conversation, Dorian reveals that he only has a few months to live due to cancer and doesn't mind risking himself on another mission. A soldier summons Dorian and Charlie for a new task, while Dan is called by the colonel. To his surprise, he discovers that the colonel is his own daughter, Murray Forrester. As he tries to embrace her, she pushes him away, revealing that she is a renowned biotechnology researcher and leader of the research team. Murray asks Dan to accompany her on her mission, where they will try to capture a female white claw. During the journey, she reveals that humans are seen as little more than food by these creatures, who have already devastated more than half the world's population in just 3 years. Curious about his own future, Dan questions Murray about her death and the fate of his wife. However, Murray avoids the conversation and focuses on the mission. They reach the cave that houses the female white claws, which are rare and highly protected by the males. The battle is fierce to capture the creature, and Murray is gravely injured. Motivated to protect his daughter, Dan bravely faces the female and, with the help of other soldiers, manages to capture her in a cage. However, several creatures appear to save the female, and one of the helicopters crashes. Dan and Murray manage to escape by car to a beach. While waiting for rescue, Murray confesses to Dan that he abandoned his family when she was 12 years old and died in a car accident when Murray was 16. Tearfully, she reveals that she was present during his last breaths, and at that moment, Dan assures her that he would never abandon them. Rescued by a helicopter, they take the captured female to a laboratory in the middle of the ocean. Murray reveals her plan to use the samples from the female to develop something that eliminates all the white claws, as the previously tested samples only have an effect on the males. Working together on various tests, they discover the venom capable of stopping the white claws, but they face the challenge of mass-producing and disseminating it worldwide. Murray suggests the idea of Dan taking the toxin back in time to prevent the alien invasion before it even begins, but he doesn't want to leave his daughter in that imminent danger. When the sample is deemed effective, the female white claw wakes up and tries to break free, while hundreds of thousands of males are destroying the area to rescue her. Dan and Murray run towards a helicopter, but time is running out. In the midst of the chaos, Murray is hit by a spine launched by one of the creatures and gets injured. As the place catches fire, Murray hands the toxin to her father. However, she is pulled back by the female white claw. Dan tries to save her, but there's not enough time. He is pulled back to the past along with the venom sample. Upon returning, Dan informs about the venom, but he discovers that the time machine has been damaged, rendering the venom useless. They can't send it to the future to destroy the white claws in 2051. The machine cannot be repaired, and the hope of preventing the invasion is lost. At home, Murray creates a welcome home sign for Dan, who appears disturbed by the events. Finally, he embraces his daughter. Later, Dan tells his wife Emmy about the toxin and his encounter with adult Murray. He wonders about the origin of the creatures as there are no records about them, and no one in the future knew how they came to be. Determined to do something, Dan seeks out Dorian, who offers to help him. Together, they visit Charlie's laboratory to examine the white claw that Dorian brought as a keepsake. Next, they discover that the creatures are, in fact, living under a Russian glacier for thousands of years. The three decide to seek help from Mission Control, but they are denied assistance due to internal problems plaguing the planet, such as protests and unrest worldwide. Determined to find a solution, Dan turns to his father, an engineer with connections, who agrees to help them. Together, they prepare an airplane and a pilot for the mission. Lieutenant Hart and her team also join them on the journey, where they land on the Russian glacier and use snowmobiles to climb uphill in search of evidence of the creature's presence. However, when they arrive there, their devices mysteriously shut down. Upon investigating the area, they discover a massive glacier with a magnetic field and decide to explode everything to explore further, which reveals the existence of a cave. Inside the extraterrestrial spacecraft they encounter a different alien species, unlike the creatures seen in the future. Going to another room, they discover capsules with white claws, and they realize that these creatures are not aliens but extraterrestrial weapons used for planet cleansing. With the toxin they brought, they manage to eliminate some of the creatures trapped in the capsules. Excited by the success of the experiment, problems arise when the other capsules begin to shake and the white claws inside them try to escape. Some manage to get out before they can be poisoned. The battle against the monsters begins, with Dan's father and Charlie facing them from the outside. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Hart notices a new colony of white claws in another part of the ship. With no other choice, they decide to detonate the ship to prevent the creatures from spreading and causing an invasion. After spreading explosives in strategic points, Dorian activates the button, causing the spaceship to explode, eliminating all the white claws inside, except for one female that managed to escape. Now, Dan, his father, and Charlie are the only survivors of the team. Determined to find the escaped creature, Dan and his father locate her and engage in a frantic battle. With courage, Dan manages to inject the toxin into the creature and throws her off a cliff, leaving only the three of them to tell the tale. In the final scene, Dan takes his father back home, where he reunites with his wife and daughter. Determined not to repeat the same mistakes from the future warned by Murray, he is committed to protecting his family and humanity from future threats. Thank you for watching, and subscribe to receive more videos like this. Activate notifications and leave a like to support the channel. Thanks, and see you next time.